Pauline Swift for Our World Media Magazine. I'm here with Councilman Willis in Queens. How are you? Welcome to Our World Media.
I'm well. How are you, Ms. Swift?
I'm good. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, what inspired you to enter into politics?
Nothing. I had no intentions on getting into politics. I actually had a contracting company that I was running. I'm from South Jamaica Houses.
Okay.
So early on, my sister's godfather, he was the only black master painter in the city. And at 14 years old, he took me and gave me a skill and a trade, and from there I just kept building. My dream was to have a multi-million-dollar construction company, be able to hire a lot of my friends that were coming home from being incarcerated by making stupid mistakes but couldn't do anything.
So where did the road change?
You know what? I got married, and when I got married, I was going through a real turbulent time, trying to learn how to be a husband. Wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be doing, run a business. It was like a lot of different elements were converging that I had no idea or any history or how to deal with. So I was going through a period of 6 months of praying and fasting. And my last fast, the 7th day of my last fast, a woman by the name of Margaret Denson worked for Councilman Leroy Conley. And she said that she wanted me to drive him around one day because this guy worked 16 hours a day by himself, driving himself and everything. So I said, sure, I like him. I'll drive with him. It's not a problem. I campaigned for him previous. And that night, we went into a place called Rib Shack. You familiar with Rib Shack?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And we got to Rib Shack, and it was about 9:45 at night, and he asked me if I wanted something to eat. So I told him, no, I'm good. He asked me, did I have any money? I was like, I make more than you. Like, I'm doing construction. I don't need any money. And he said, so why aren't you eating? And I said, I was fasting. So he said, for what? And I said, I needed some type of focus. I wanted to know what God wanted me to do. And he said, well, when God tells you, you tell me. I looked at him, I said, you're a politician. You don't know anything about God. You know, that was ignorant on my part, but I really didn't think that politicians had any spiritual center. And we went inside a Rib Shack, and every person that he knew, I knew, but I grew up under these people. Like, these people were legends in our community for whatever reason, and they all loved him and respected him. And we got back in the car, and God said, you're going to do what he does. And at that point in time, I had no idea what the council member did or anything like that. And he said, okay, we'll start tomorrow. And from that day, for the next 4.5 years, I worked for him every single day, from 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, with no salary. God took care of me with my construction company and allowed me to work for him. And then the rest is history. I started working for other elected officials, running campaigns, fighting for community causes, making sure the hospitals weren't being shut down. Then I opened up a not-for-profit, and from there, when the seat opened up, people said that they wanted me to run. And it was a hard election, but God allowed us to win, and that was it.
You're from the projects?
Yeah, South Jamaica Houses,
Oh,
109-30, 160th Street, 4th floor, absolutely.
So there is such a thing as a success story.
Yeah, we have a lot of success stories that come out of there. It's just they're just underreported, or they're not reported at all, which is a good reason that you guys are around, because none of these things are reported. The only thing comes out of our neighborhood, you know how in the Bible says no good thing can come out of Nazareth. They really treat our communities like that. And if it wasn't for you guys, people that have the heart and the will to actually report on the good stuff no matter what, we wouldn't have any of that.
I always see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. No, that vision, a lot of people are vision impaired when it comes to that.
Nah. Tell me, what district do you what are the areas that you represent?
District 28, Southeast Queens. So I am Rochdale, South Ozone Park, Richmond Hill, Baisley, and Jamaica.
Okay.
South Jamaica.
I heard through the grapevine that this part is going to be renovated with a lot of new hotels.
Yes, it is.
Is true?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It's a blessing and a curse.
Okay.
In 2008, they declared parts of Jamaica a special district when they were doing the rezoning, and they downzoned a lot of it because if you remember, we were being hit with foreclosures At the same time, we were being preyed upon by developers that were tearing down one-family homes and building 3 or 4 families in their places, which overtaxed a lot of our infrastructure. But they saw that the downtown Jamaica area was a gold mine, right? Straight shot to Manhattan. We had the air train, so that they made it easy for people to build hotels. So right now we have a couple of incredible investors and developers that really want to bring jobs to our community, construction and post-construction jobs, and bring something that we haven't had before, 5-star hotels. But then there are a lot of these little developers that the city is allowing to build as of right so that they can use them for homeless shelters.
Okay.
Right? So while we're trying to build up, it's like the city is being an active partner and making sure that we're not going to where we should be or what we deserve as a community.
Now, Southern Boulevard has
Yes.
always been known to be not quite the best.
Right.
With 5-star hotels coming, how are you going to get rid of the negativity that is associated with it?
Well, we've looked at how to design or redesign our community for the last 4 years, and we've been actively working towards it. So, case in point, South Road, right? Southern Boulevard is nothing compared to the negative reality that South Road had. The only thing you think about in South Road was drugs in the 80s, open air drug markets, 70s, it had gangs and prostitution and things like that. But South Road was the first place that minority businesses came when they came to South Jamaica, Southeast Queens, when we came here to live. And nobody knows that history. So what we did was, being that South Road was the street that actually separated York College, right? Something that people strive to get to, education, and South Jamaica houses, we renamed it Tuskegee Airmen Way. So we actually put legislation in to not co-name it, but rename it. So now on all of the maps, when you put GPS in, it's Tuskegee Airmen Way, because that group gave our people something to look forward to beyond everything. Any fights, anything that we can kind of imagine, we can look to them towards a victory and know we can do it. So with that replanning or redesign, we're building affordable houses on Tuskegee Airmen Way, apartments, so that people in our community can afford to live here. And at the same time, we're building and this is going to be the first of its kind, it's a daycare center where we're going to be working so the children, from the day they enter that daycare center, have a slot in a university already. So there's no way we have to worry about our children not going to college. They're already there. And their tuitions will be frozen at today's market prices. So with tuition going up, or the inflation at 7% a year, people who enter school now won't be able to afford that tuition, right? But it's going to be frozen. In addition to that, the parents will pay a small percentage, and our investors will invest so that their college tuition is taken care of.
What has been, that's very good, what has been the feedback from the community, the residents? What?
The feedback has been tremendous. They were happy that we got it done. We actually had to go and sit down with the Tuskegee Airmen and ask them for the right to use their name, the same way they did in Harlem. And the community is working actively with us to make sure that the street is redone, right? The worst thing in the world to do is, if you ride through certain communities, have names of their heroes on street signs, but the streets are full of potholes. You know, there's no real street furniture from DOT. There's no progress in the businesses that come there. So that's what the community is working with me now on doing.
And what would you say is your vision for your area, your community?
I wouldn't say it's equity. I would say that I want more than being brought up to par in education. Our schools have, for a long time, have had the worst teachers sent into them, and I think it's done intentionally. We actually have a bill right now so we can stop that. We're able to now track. There's a pool of teachers, I think it's called the ATR pool, Absent Teacher Reserve. And what happens is, a lot of the teachers, if you hear about the closing of the schools and things like that, those teachers are placed into this pool. But those are the teachers that the new administration of the school didn't want, right? So for whatever reason, they were underperforming teachers. But those teachers are usually shifted back into our schools and our communities. This bill would allow us to track that, to prove once and for all you're not going to continue this lemon dance where you put the worst teachers in our communities. That, combined with the capital money we put in our schools for something I designed called a feeder program. The feeder school program is where we take an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, and we pay for capital enrichment programs such as digital recording studios, black box studios where they can do performing arts. They can learn how to write music and learn that it's not about just hip hop, but they can do underscores for movies and commercials. We have a lounge going in where they can do their own digital software, right? Halo has gone at billions of dollars. So they can go from elementary school, from PS40 to a dance studio, to junior high school 72 or MS226, to a dance studio, to August Martin, to a dance studio. So they can take up performing arts. Law, our children will go from any one of our schools that have a courtroom place into it, to 72 where there'll be a courtroom, to the high school for law and government. And they'll be able to not only say, I want to go to law school, but know what type of law they want to do. So this is the vision, because once we can get a footing in education, then we can go anywhere we need to go.
Around how long would it take for all these new developments to take place?
Well, the feeder school program, we've been working on it since day one. So some of the schools actually already have some of these things in place now. We've done several ribbon cuttings. We're the only council district in the state to have the Windows Without Walls program, which means that our kids can pipe in over the internet to all of our other schools. Up to 8 schools at one time can be in it. They can do science projects together, or they can compete against each other. They've done iconic presentations to one another. They've done cultural presentations because we have a large Southeastern or South Asian population here. So we want them to know that we are in this together, so they can go from one school to the other without even leaving. It's like a passport to the world. They don't even have to leave their school.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we're the only. I just, some of these things, me and my staff have worked on it, diligently, and for all of the negative stuff we get, these are things that we've been able to do.
Now, the police department.
Yes.
There's been a lot of negativity over the years.
Yes.
With all the new developments that is going to be taking place, is the police department on board, and are they willing to work with the community?
You know what? We've been working with the last 3 commissioners, and I haven't agreed with the commissioners all the time, but when we get our commanding officers into our precincts, our commanding officers are partners with us. Now, there are some cowboys in the street, detectives and stuff, that handle our people the wrong way, and they get the punishment that they're supposed to get. And if they do it continuously, then they'll be removed, period. Me and other council members, Jemani Williams and Robert Carnegie, we're not going to tolerate that in the city at all. But we have an NCO program, and those officers are actually on the ground now, working where their schedules are flexible. So if you have an issue, they will come to your home and work something out. If a pastor has an issue, if a civic is having issues, and we want to deal with things such as the trucks that are illegally parked on our streets, we've had towing operations. You know what I'm saying? The body-worn cameras is something that we're working with. But with the partnership that we've had, we've been successful in making sure that people have been taken off of our streets. There was a man that just severely hurt one of our seniors in front of the deli on Septon Boulevard. The community was upset because we weren't getting the same response as far as other communities may have gotten, where they wanted 100 police cars up and down and cameras. The police department told us that if we did that, then it may spook the guy and he may run. They guaranteed he would be in custody. 16 days later, he was in custody. That's because of our partnership with the police department. 16 days is too long because people in our community was harboring them, and cooperation is a two-way street. We had another young lady, Miss Crawley, that was killed recently. The police department apprehended him. It hurt. It was a shame that we had to bury one of the queens from our community, but he has been apprehended and he's taken off the street. And now our community is starting to understand that, yes, we have bad police officers, but there's bad people in everything, and our community needs to work with the good police officers, and we have a responsibility also to make sure these people are uncomfortable in our communities.
Sounds very good. Sounds good. Now, Councilman Willis, what would you like your legacy to be?
Positive development. So I want, when I'm done, I want people to be able to look at something and say, he did that. And when I say he, I don't mean he as an individual, but his team did that. Those people that are part of the informal government that work with us, the community boards and different things like that, that they can say, he changed the educational system in our district so our kids can do the things that they've dreamed about doing. And it's not just something that we tell them, but it's real. I want them to be able to look at how we transform daycare, how there's no longer, in our district anyway, a pipeline to prison that they can count on. It's a pathway to a promise. I want them to be able to look at streets renamed, not just co-named, but renamed, and see how a street renamed after Thomas Wright Jr., my predecessor, would correspond to a school like PS 45, where they have a civics curriculum there, where those young people are being trained to go into government and different policy making positions. I want people to be able to tangibly touch what we've done. I don't want it to be a thing where they said he provided capital for a bunch of laptops, right? Because by the time those people talk about it, laptops would be obsolete.
True.
I want them to be able to say that he created the next few tech billionaires that were able to come in and change how medical and our communities are dealt with.
Okay. I like what you stand for.
I appreciate it.
Now, what is your take on the election? I have to ask you that
No, that's
question.
not a problem.
What is
What is your take on it?
Well, I'm
Despondent,
kind
you're
of very
upset,
disappointed.
disappointed.
Yes, very disappointed.
I think that most people, especially minorities, are disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But I would caution against being disappointed at the wrong things. Being disappointed because a specific individual wasn't elected is not as important as us being disappointed as of the policies that may come forward, right? We should be disappointed in the fact that the campaigns in the Democratic Party didn't reach out to minorities as it should have. We should be disappointed that the very people that could have pushed this election and should have been excited to come out were not. And there's a reason for that. You can't ignore a whole segment of people and think that everything is going to be okay. You can't start having victory laps 3 weeks out before an election after you've basically eliminated by not outreaching to a whole segment of a community. You can't keep taking advantage of the black vote and taking it for granted. Those are the things that we should be disappointed in. We've got a lot accomplished when we had a fight for civil rights. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and others were out in these streets and we were protesting and marching. We weren't protesting and marching for nothing. We were protesting and marching because we wanted to see a result. And I believe this is going to be a reset button on that. There's a lot of issues that we have been left out of, and we will continue to be left out of if we allow us to be to not make them know that our vote has a value to it. You can't just walk into our community, into a church anymore, and think because you came to a church you're going to get our votes. You need to be able to say that blacks across the diaspora, Caribbeans and everyone else, have an equal share in an immigration argument. It's not just about Latinos, right? You have to be able to say that when we're talking about jobs, you can't keep telling us that you're going to give us job programs, but these jobs never manifest to anything. These young men on these streets are tired of hearing about go to a program, go to a program, go to a program, and they can't put food in their belly and their children. They can't put clothes in their children. And this is what the Democratic Party has fallen into a rut of doing. And they expect because somebody's on the Democratic ticket, we're going to come out and vote. So yeah, we should be despondent. We should be upset. We should be disappointed. But not necessarily that the person didn't get in, but because the policies that have been implemented and the conditions that we have been under, we should be upset that those things are continuing, and we need to be able to stop that now.
I am disappointed. I know a lot of people wanted to see Miss Clinton get in.
Yes, first woman president
Yes,
made
of
history.
course, yes. And a lot of people did not even vote.
Yeah, that's true.
And because they said, it doesn't really make a difference. And so on that, I think that we still need to get out and vote and vote and
We
vote.
do, absolutely. But we need to have platforms that make it attractive for people to vote. You see, the I don't think it's right, right? I think we have to be fair because I don't believe that we should be okay with calling other people's names, right? Taking them out of character, making characterizations that are negative for others, and then when they do it to us, we're up in arms about it, right? And I think that for us to move, because we have to move, we've always moved. For us to move in the right direction, we would have to now demand equity on certain issues, right? So we can be out in the street right now and protest for the fact that we're upset that he won. But the fact is the man won, right? So there was a certain group of people
That voted.
that voted for him to win, right? And they were mobilized. They came out, they were activated. And why were they activated and we were not, right? That's a real problem. That's something that we really have to deal with and speak to. What are the things that made us come out in 2008 and 2012, but did not make us come out now? That's the problem. So if you had a African American or anyone on the top of the ticket that was a minority, that was a history-making event. But the man spoke to real change and hope. If you have a woman at the top of a ticket, that's a history-making event. Why didn't it translate? Why didn't that hope, why didn't that excitement translate? Because we knew what we were getting if we got this president, right?
Yes.
We knew what was coming. So he used fear to activate his crowd. He used the fact that people were tired of, in the Midwestern states and that Rust Belt, of being ignored and not having their jobs. Why weren't we just as upset about being ignored and not having jobs? Why weren't we just as upset about them leaving our communities in poverty all over the country? Why weren't we just as upset that Chicago has the highest homicide rate in the country, right? They've killed more people in the streets and in the wars. Why weren't we upset about that enough to say, we're not coming out, we're coming out, at least if we don't come out for her, we're coming out against him?
Well, why do
didn't
you
we do
think?
that?
Why do you think we weren't upset enough?
That's the question. And you're a journalist, so I mean, we need people like you who look at the world and are able to see the world every day from a different lens than we do. I mean, I know why I wasn't. I don't know why some people weren't upset. It's because they're committed to hopelessness, right? If you have a people that have had their heads held below water for so long, when you lift their head up to give them oxygen, sometimes they're not even going to want the oxygen because they know if they fill their breaths, if their lungs are filled with something, that life-giving oxygen, it's just going to give them an expectation that's going to be failed again. So they'd rather just stay with their heads down where they're at. So I know why a good percentage of the people didn't come out, because they just think that they just have to keep their heads low and work and just mill through it. But that's not acceptable, right? But we've allowed the unacceptable to be acceptable. How is it acceptable that all of our brothers and sisters are being slain in the streets of Chicago? How is that acceptable? How is it acceptable that our school systems are still below where they're supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. And this is not something that is happening in certain little pockets. This is something that is happening everywhere. How is it acceptable that special interests and others are passing legislation to affect their people, but when we want to do it, we're called somehow we're racist and we're using the race card to want to benefit our people? How is that acceptable? These are the things that we really need to get to the root of and be able to change. And the only way we can do that is by relying on people such as yourself that have the power of the media to get some of these things out.
Well, I hope that this interview will get the message out.
I think you guys have done a great job. Like, I've seen some of the print magazines now, and I mean, this is a phenomenal thing.
Thank you.
I had no idea, and I'm being honest with you on tape, I had no idea that Our World was had produced such a great product. I mean, the pictures are awesome, the articles, the subject matter, everything is really nice.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Councilman Willis.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Pauline Swift for Our World Media Magazine. Back at you.